Hello, good morning and welcome to News Desk. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, prosecution in the ongoing ambulance procurement trial has for the first time admitted that the Attorney General Godfred Yeboadami met with the third accused person, Richard Jakpa, at the residence of the Supreme Court Judge Justice Yoni Kulendi. We'll tell you all that transpired in court. Also in this bulletin, trial of Minority Leader Dr. Keselato Forson taking a toll on Parliament business as NDC MPs continue to boycott proceedings whenever their leader is in court. And later in the bulletin, National Health Insurance Authority ridicules claims that the scheme has collapsed and is unable to pay service providers. My name is Faustina Safo. Take a seat. You're my guest. Thanks for choosing us for your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Now we start with the trial of the Minority Leader, Dr. Keselato Forson, because it has taken a major toll on business of Parliament after NDC MPs' decision to boycott proceedings whenever their leader is in court interrupted business yesterday. Well, the NDC MPs boycotted a large part of the proceedings yesterday because their minority leader returned from court late, only to enter the chamber at the end of the proceedings, raising issues of quorum. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kwekwa Asante has a wrap of proceedings from the House yesterday.
The trial of Dr. Keselato Forson for causing financial loss to the state is happening in the courts, but having a cascading effect on the business of the House. You will recall last week when the House resumed, the minority did indicate that whenever their leader was in court for his trial, they will boycott proceedings. In fact, today they did. And today, sitting started nearly 3 p.m. because the minority MPs were not coming to the floor and the majority MPs also were not in their numbers. In fact, when sitting started, the MPs on the floor were not even up to 20. Later on, when the trial ended and the minority leader did walk into the floor, the NDC MPs started raising issues of quorum.
There is still no quorum. Suspend sitting of the House for a period of not more than 1 hour. Mr. Speaker, can you direct the clerk and table to conduct a head count?
They were recognized. No, we must correct that.
Honorable Chief Whip.
You were recognized. When you walked in, you were recognized. And when you walked in and you got up to speak, you were recognized. Let that go on the records. What is that?
The second Deputy Speaker, Andrew Amakwesiama, was now under pressure to act according to the dictates of the standing orders. The standing orders provide that whenever an MP raises an issue of quorum, he should instruct the table office to get the bells to be rung in the House. The bell did ring, and after 10 minutes, James Klucha-Veji was on his feet again, pressuring the Speaker of Parliament to actually go by the dictates of the House and suspend Parliament. This nearly degenerated into chaos because, according to the Deputy Speaker, as per his time, the 10 minutes provided by the standing orders had not reached, but it's not something the NDC MPs were ready to countenance.
I don't know the time you are using. My time is not up yet. I'm monitoring my time.
Mr. Speaker.
My time is not up to 10 minutes.
That the bell was rung. When the bell was rung, we all heard it. If you are telling this House or me that you are using your time,
Honorable Veji, I'm left with 2 minutes.
Standing order regulate the conduct of the House. If our own standing order says it, why? No.
Clerk at table.
Mr. Speaker.
Clerk at table.
Mr. Speaker, we are not asking you now
Clerk
to go.
at table.
Mr. Speaker, we are not asking you
Please
now to go.
Let count the members.
No.
Ultimately, the MPs on the floor were not up to 92, which would allow for MPs to proceed the business, and then proceeded to suspend sitting for an hour. It is clear that the minority are not willing to back down on their demand that the trial of the minority leader should cease. According to James Klucha-Veji, an MP for Kintamponov, they are not trying to frustrate government business, but they are only asking for the right thing to be done.
We are here. We are here. We are ready to work. Is Honorable Ato Forson, who is the leader of the minority, also not qualified to represent his people? So if he's there every day in court are they not concerned that by that act, he's also not representing his people? If they want us to do the work, and which they term frustration, then they should allow Honorable Atuforson should also represent his people. They should drop the case.
It is just right that as a leader of the minority, we also show some sympathy and solidarity with him. Or if even it's midnight, we'll now be transacting government business, why not? We'll do. But in any case, it should be on record that now it's even the minority who are always more in the house. You are in the house here, you have been seeing it. Let your cameras always report it. It's we, the minority, who are always more even in the house.
In the coming days, more and more government business, key bills, among others, are expected to come to the floor. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when the minority leader is away in court being prosecuted for causing financial loss to the state, the House will suffer. It is not clear how long the minority intend to hold this, but they say that they are not going to relent in making this demand that the prosecution of their minority leader is dropped. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, let's get more on this. Joining us now via Zoom is Rashid Rahman. He's Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Thank you for your time here on News Desk, Sir Rashid.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, we also have the member of the majority in Parliament. He's also chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Andy Appiah-Kubi. Thank you for your time here on News Desk.
Oh, thank you very much also. And I'm very happy that you joined me. And I wish you congratulations for today's discussions.
Thank you so much. I'll start with you, Andy Appiah-Kubi, because you are in Parliament and you've seen how the proceedings have fared so far with the absence of the minority. What's the general thought you have right now as we start the conversation?
Thank you very much, my sister. But let me start by commenting on our behaviors in Parliament. Indeed, I watched the script as presented by David. And what strikes me immediately is our conduct, our communication, donation, the respect that we have to show for each other, particularly show for the chair. All of these are absent, and I'm very worried. Is it the case that in Ghana, if you shout on top of your voice that you are heard, or is it the case that the content is that which really matters? In fact, we should be concerned that we are also leaving a legacy for future generations to come and hear it. And therefore, whatever we do, wherever we are, we must be conscious of the environment and also the persons on whose lives we affect. I am not happy with all of us every day shouting on top of our voice, even as we are on your feet in Parliament. It is not the right thing to do. And I want your good self to communicate that to all of us that, well, shouting on top of your voice doesn't really add to the value of the content that you provide. Let's move on.
Now,
yes.
Make your point. Feel free.
It is well known that criminal action is action in persona. When you are before a criminal court, you are the person before the criminal court, not a community. And your action or your offense is not vicariously transferred to another person for which other persons must show up in court. And indeed, Parliament also has its way of doing business. And indeed, if you want to absent yourself from Parliament, there are procedures that you have to follow. And indeed, if you are going to be absent for whatever reason, I think the provisions require that you communicate that to the Speaker, who will give you leave to be absent. Is it the case that all of them have communicated to the Speaker to be absent for a day, that the trial to go on? Is it the case that somebody who you interviewed said that they must abort the trial? Is it the case that politicians are above the law? Is that what we are saying? When you are before the court on criminal charges, it does not mean that you are guilty. It is an opportunity to prove your innocence. Indeed, it is an opportunity for prosecution to establish your guilt before you are convicted. So the fact that you are before the court doesn't mean that you are guilty of anything. If anything at all that you want to do, we need to mobilize enough evidence to punch holes into the prosecution's evidence. to maybe earn an acquittal. But everybody sacrificing your job, assuming there is a market woman before the court, and all market women decide not to go to the market. Who will feed the nation? Indeed, what they are doing, to say the least, is, very unpardonable. In fact, the fact that somebody is before a court doesn't mean you should hang your gloves, stop whatever you're doing. And then, most of us were in court yesterday, and because of how proceedings have taken shape over the last few days, some of us will be in our offices waiting for the speaker to call. And in any case, is it a case that when somebody is before court, all of us are waiting in our offices? Because at the time that they adjourn sitting to 3 p.m., what is the essence of adjourning sitting to 3 p.m. because somebody is in court? So if an ordinary citizen of the nation is in court, we'll also adjourn sitting to 3 p.m. Let us not expose ourselves to unnecessary attacks from the public. Because somebody, one person, is in court, we will sit at 3 p.m. So yesterday we were in our offices waiting for the 3 p.m. for us to be, for the sitting to convene so that we join. And we are setting a very, very bad precedent. So next time, I will expect that any member of the public is also in court. We should show solidarity with him. All of us should rise in parliament and go to the court to show solidarity. How big are we than the members who elected us as members of parliament? And that, if we frustrate government business the way we are doing, it means that we are not showing patriotism to the country. That is untoward, and that is unacceptable.
Now, it's interesting you raised the point of setting a dangerous precedence, because that's the concern of many. Would this now mean that the majority will also boycott courts when there are such prosecutions against probably the majority leader in future?
Well, that is the suggestion from the conduct of members of parliament. But I think it is very wrong, and we must condemn it. And I do condemn it as a member. And I feel ashamed sometimes when we are confronted with such situations. And we should be showing the leadership. We should be showing the lead. And we are not. We are failing in showing leadership in this country. And how long can we go on with this? It doesn't mean that any other person is in court that should abort parliamentary proceedings. I'm not sure that is the expectations of the concept of rule of law. And again, would it have been any other person if it was not the leader of the minority? The answer should be no. And everybody is equal before the law. And indeed, when you go to court and you are given an adjourned date, if you are uncomfortable with the date for any reason, you raise the issues there. And the court is mindful of your availability and your convenience. And therefore, the court will consider your circumstances and probably adjourn. But you cannot say that because I'm supposed to appear before court, everybody else must hold on and not go to work. I mean, where can we justify this phenomenon? It is unjustifiable. My sister, I'm saying that let us all begin to realize that we are hurting ourselves. In fact, then if we are not coming to court, I would suggest that then we don't get paid for the days that we stay out of court.
Well, that's a key point he's making there, Andy Abiakubi. Please finalize with your point. We're interrupted shortly. You say that when it comes to this issue, we have to look at measures of dealing with it. And you were just making a point there before an interruption. Please make your point.
Yes, I'm saying when it comes to issues like this, we need to prioritize and consider why we have come to Parliament in the first place and what we ought to do for the country Ghana. And let us not think of a government in place. We are working for the country, not for the government.
So do you feel that each time parliamentarians miss sitting on the floor, should the allowance be deducted, taken out? What do you feel about that?
I am suggesting that. I am suggesting that if we don't come to work, we don't have to get paid. Simple. So that as long as we want to stay in the in the courtroom, let us deduct that and return it to National Kitty. Because if you don't work, you don't need to get paid.
Because the concern now is about balance, balancing your legislative duties and when you have legal issues in court. And I'm sure that we'll bring in Rashid Rahman to talk about that shortly. But then moving forward, Andy, how do you propose that we deal with such issues when there are concerns by the minority already about quorum? The minority leader came in late yesterday, was raising concerns about quorum.
You see, it is not that members of parliament were not available. Members of parliament, I can tell you, most of us were available, except that the sitting had been adjourned to 3 p.m., and therefore there was no need to go to the floor of parliament. Most of us were in our offices waiting. So I'm asking, is there any justification for me to prepare myself for the day and come to parliament only to sit in my office waiting for somebody who is in court to come before I go to parliament? So it means that there is no reason why I should go to parliament at all. And I'm saying that if somebody has to go to court for any reason at all, that is not enough justification why I should not be available to do my work as a member of parliament. And that the decisions of even the whole house that let's adjourn to 3 p.m. cannot be justified. And more so, the decision of the minority to also follow one person or one member to parliament is entirely their decision. But nevertheless, I think that having been called to work in parliament, your first responsibility and duty is to participate in the work of parliament and let the man who is facing the charges go and defend himself. It doesn't add anything to the defense value if you present yourself in court. You are only a spectator. So if at all you want to support your candidate or your leader in parliament, you should support him in evidence so that he will be able to obtain acquittal, not your presence in court. It doesn't add anything to the value of the defense.
Andy Akpiakubi, stay with me. Let me bring in Dr. Rashid Rahman. He's Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Thank you for your time here on Newsdesk. Now, the concern being raised is that the conduct of the minority sets a dangerous precedent. Do you agree?
Yes, I think that, you know, the important issue here is, like you said earlier, balancing the duties that they have to perform as people that we Ghanaians have hired to go and do legislative business with us, for us, and their, if you like, their political interests. At the end of the day, I think because of the game of numbers, the minority is using this as a political strategy because they know this is where it will hurt most. Across the world, I think research has shown that only about a quarter of these boycotts and walkouts eventually end up achieving their intended purposes. Usually, if they continue, they backfire. And I am afraid that if this continues this way, perhaps maybe the research, the global research on parliaments might play out here in our case in Ghana. Because at the end of the day, we want our parliamentarians to use whatever political strategy they have in their hands. But most importantly, they must show up and work. So which means if indeed their leader has to go to court, perhaps maybe one strategy might be not all of them go to court en masse, or not all of them boycott parliament en masse. They can show solidarity with their leader, perhaps by some of them accompanying him to court. But let me state this. This is the realistic approach, in my view, as a political scientist. This matter cannot be resolved legally alone. I think I've said this before. The fact that the honorable member on the program, Honorable Andia Apio Kubi, is saying that, Parliament was adjourned. Most of them were sitting in their offices until 3 p.m. when Parliament was recalled. It suggests that this matter cannot be dealt with alone, legally. I think there has to be some serious conversations. Yes, we don't want to set a precedent that, anybody is above the law. But at the same time, we need government business and the business of Ghana to go on. What is the realistic approach? Isn't it time for our leaders to sit together and discuss this issue? How can the court handle this issue and make sure that the leader goes to court or the leader is given his day in court in a way that doesn't affect the business of Parliament? I think that this is a major question that our political leaders will need to answer. Otherwise, this game of numbers is going to continue and it's going to disrupt government business, because over the years, you and I are in this country, and, we have seen that when it comes to dealing with absenteeism, Parliament has failed woefully. And perhaps that's why people can just walk away and come back, because they know that there wouldn't be any consequences. And like the honorable member has said, I think I support that view. I have said over and over on your platform, on other platforms, that look, we have to adopt an approach that bites directly, because, the issue of taking members to the privileges committee when they absent themselves and so on over the years has not worked. Our parliamentarians have failed to look their own in their face and say that on this count, you are guilty and you are expelled from Parliament. They have not been able to do that. And many parliaments recognize that that is not possible. So they adopt the approach where if you don't show up, you don't get paid, or you suffer some of your allowances and so on. Perhaps this is a time Parliament might have to think about maybe going this way, as the honorable member is suggesting, and it's an approach that I support very strongly.
Now, the concern here is that no one is above the law. If the minority leader is facing a trial, why then should other minority members fail to show up? And I'm sure that's the concern many are having, because this is affecting parliamentary business. You propose that they should not be paid moving forward, but what other firmer actions do you feel Parliament could implement such that this do not reoccur in the future?
Well, let me repeat this again. It looks like under the privileges, under the standing orders, if you absent yourself, continuously for 15, 16 days and without any valid reason, it says that you have vacated your seat. You have vacated, Parliament. You are no longer a member of Parliament. But I'm making the point that over the years, speaker after speaker, right? You can go to the records from maybe the second Parliament, and this has become more prominent. From my observation, I think from about the fifth Parliament under Right Honorable Joyce Bamford Addo to Right Honorable Dua Jaho to Right Honorable Michael Kwe to now. Even before this case, you take your cameras to the House, and most of the time the House is empty. The honorable member is here. I think he can attest to that.
Yes, Senior. Maybe let's come in at this time.
I'm sure Andy Apiakubi wants to make a point, so please hold on for me.
Okay.
Senior, let me come in at this time. I am a lawyer in a case where we wanted to test the law, whether or not absenting yourself from Parliament and without due leave of the Speaker amounts to a vacation of your seat. We are in court. We are still in court. Unfortunately, this matter is pending in court whilst parliamentary work is still ongoing. But I want to press for a decision in this case, if for nothing at all, for academic purposes, because we can't just take the citizens for a right. Like you are voted into parliament and you elect to go and stay somewhere and you don't come to parliament and nothing happens to you. And like my senior is saying, because we are all parliamentarians, they say wash your back and wash your back, and therefore nothing happens. So there is a presumption that you can take leave without the Speaker's authorization and nothing will happen to you. And I'm saying this is also another very dangerous precedent we are setting. So for nothing at all, I'm still in court. I'm waiting for the hearing notice. I'm waiting for the hearing date to be served on me to go and listen to Supreme Court as they speak on our application that somebody has vacated his seat for so long. And interestingly, it is a member from my own caucus that we have brought to court, and Honorable Ajoa Sapo. We are still in court. We are still in Supreme Court. And if it takes us up to December for us to have a decision of the court, at least for nothing at all, it will be a decision referable in future. So I will still pursue it. I am in court in that matter.
Now, Rashid Draman, let me come back to you to finalize on your points.
Yeah. Yes, so I think I'm very happy that Honorable Apio Kubi has said that he's in court on this matter. But I thought that these issues are quite clear. I don't know. It looks like
there was a ruling of the Speaker which I'm challenging, that the provision in the Constitution doesn't need any interpretation, and therefore the ruling of the Speaker is the matter in issue for the determination upon interpretation of the constitutional provision.
Yeah, so I think that it's good that hopefully we can get some clarity once the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement on this, because this aspect of the issue of the kind of inability to deal with absenteeism decisively over the years, speaker after speaker, I think has emboldened a lot of members of parliament. And I am saying that take the minority case aside. Just look at even in the preceding months. Day after day, we see a house that is half empty. And both sides are guilty, and sometimes members of parliament are not able to account for where they are, what they are doing, and so on. And so I think that if we are dealing with this issue of absenteeism, I think we have to deal with it holistically. But having said that, like I said earlier, at the end of the day, you have to protest, but you also have to show up and work. And I think that that's a message to our colleagues in the NDC. They have to make their case, but they have to show up and work. Because if decisions are taken on their back, I think most of us are losing representation in the House, particularly those who are represented by members who are from the minority. But let me go back again and make my point that this matter cannot be resolved legally alone. This is the leader of a minority group in the House. We are in a hung parliament. There's a game of numbers that is being played out. Our leaders in the House and beyond must keep this in mind as they deal with this issue.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashid Draman, for your time here on NewsDesk. And thank you so much, Andy Apia Kubi, for your time. Unfortunately, we'll have to move on from this conversation. But key takeaways from the conversation we've had so far, Andy Apia Kubi is proposing that each time a parliamentarian misses court sitting in the House, they would have to ensure that their pay is not given to them. Rashid Draman is also proposing firmer actions against some of these parliamentarians who miss court proceedings, who miss parliamentary sitting as a result of the court proceeding. Now, let's take you to court because that's the reason why we're having this conversation. Prosecution in the ongoing ambulance procurement trial has for the first time admitted that the Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame met with the third accused person, Richard Jakpa, at the residence of the Supreme Court Judge, Justice Dioni Kolendi. Now, this meeting, according to the state, was, however, not arranged, and that Richard Jakpa coincidentally appeared at the judge's residence when the Attorney General was sitting. Now, Thursday's affirmation was the first time the prosecution has confirmed that Richard Jakpa has on a number of occasions said during cross-examination that in the ongoing trial he had met with Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, and this was the first time that prosecution had admitted that. There's more in this report by Lateef Idrisu, who was in court. Oh, well, I'm told I have Lateef joining me now. We'll bring you that report later on. Lateef, quite an interesting day in court. Let's start from this official admission from the prosecution that indeed Richard Jakpa met with the AG at the Chief Justice's home. It's the first time they're actually admitting this, isn't it?
Yeah, but see, it's the first time. And if you were not paying attention in court, you would lose sight of this affirmation by the state prosecution, because that affirmation was couched in a question that was put to Richard Jakpa in the witness box when the state prosecution suggested to Richard Jakpa that he only appeared at the residence of the Supreme Court Judge, Justice Dioni Kolendi, when the Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame was visiting the Supreme Court Judge, and that it wasn't an arranged meeting between Richard Jakpa and the Attorney General. Richard Jakpa had suggested to the court under cross-examination by lawyers for Dr. Kesela Tuforsen. So that was the question that was put to Richard Jakpa, and clearly the prosecution, based on the space of this question, had admitted in open court that in fact there was a meeting between Richard Jakpa and Godfrey Yeboah-Dame at the residence of Justice Dioni Kolendi, but the challenge here by the prosecution is that it wasn't an arranged meeting as Richard Jakpa had suggested to the court. So that was the contention here, whether it was arranged or not arranged. Now, Richard Jakpa, in his response, told open court that, in fact, it was the Attorney General, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, who arranged that particular meeting. He referenced that by reading a portion of the evidence tendered in by the Attorney General, that is the WhatsApp chat between Richard Jakpa and the Attorney General, which the Attorney General succeeded in turning into evidence yesterday at the court. He read a portion of that which said that, and Richard Jakpa, this was Richard Jakpa sending the message to the Attorney General that, I thank you for securing or helping me to secure my bail. I appreciate that. I humbly request for a private meeting with you. I'm just paraphrasing. And then the Attorney General comes in with a response and say that I will arrange through your brother, Thanks. And the brother here, we are referring to Justice Dioni Kolendi. So Richard Jakpa read this portion of the WhatsApp chat as tendered into evidence by the Attorney General to make his case that this was the Attorney General telling him that he was going to arrange that particular meeting between himself and Richard Jakpa. And he was going to do that through the Supreme Court Judge and not directly with Richard Jakpa. So according to Richard Jakpa, the arrangement, the venue, the time of the meeting was left between the Attorney General and the Supreme Court Judge. So it is not factual for the state prosecution to suggest to him that there was never a meeting or the Attorney General, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, did not arrange the meeting between Richard Jakpa and the Attorney General, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame.
Now, let me come in at this point because Also in court, Richard Jakpa said he felt betrayed by the AG. Why is that?
Yeah, he said he felt betrayed by the Attorney General because the Attorney General had promised him that he was going to let him work as a free man when they get to the case of no submission stage of the ongoing trial. And based on that, according to Richard Jakpa, he furnished the Attorney General with documents to help him with the ongoing case. Documents he had given to Yoko during Yoko's own investigations into the matter. So he helped the Attorney General, hoping that the Attorney General will also, prove his part of the bargain when it comes to the no case submission stage by letting Richard Jakpa walk. But that didn't happen. So he was angry at the Attorney General. And so when they met at his cousin's residence, he got angry and he used unprintable words on the Attorney General. He called him a wicked person, someone who cannot, who was.
Latif, you have to position rightly. I'm losing you. Please make the point.
At the Attorney General.
Okay. Now, what's the next phase of the case right now?
So the next, Richard Jakpa will continue to be in the witness box. The state prosecution hasn't finished their cross-examination of him. And so it is unclear whether the court will sit on Tuesday or on Thursday because the Attorney General's Department seeks permission from the court to be away on Tuesday. We do not know if that's going to happen or they will show up. If they are going to be available on Tuesday, then Richard Jakpa will get back into the witness box to be cross-examined by the Director of Public Prosecution. Otherwise, on Thursday, it will continue where we will find Richard Jakpa going back in the witness box for the Director of Public Prosecution to cross-examine him, hoping that by which time the state will have finished with their cross-examination, and then the next person to be cross-examined will be the people from Big C. You remember Big C is the company that went into contract with the government of Ghana to procure the ambulances. And so they would be the next to be cross-examined in the ongoing trial process.
Thank you, Latif Idrisu, member of our Legal Affairs Desk here at Joy News. Now, the Volta Regional Director of the National Health Insurance Authority, Joseph Homenya, has ridiculed claims that the scheme has collapsed and is unable to meet claims demands of service providers. Now, he indicated that the scheme is in the best of its states and continues to function effectively with the digitalization of its system to enhance services and the addition of medication and treatment for some chronic illness to the scheme. He was speaking at the 2023 Annual Performance Peer Review in Ho.
National Health Insurance Scheme at the end of 2023 has an active membership of 1,167,329 in the Volta region, representing 68% of the region's 2023 projected population. The Regional National Health Insurance Authority achieved its target for the year and was adjudged the best performing region in the country in 2023. Addressing the 2023 Performance Peer Review, the Volta Regional Director, Joseph Homenya, indicated that the scheme continues to make strides in service delivery.
Utilization records in the period made by members of the scheme to the health facilities for the purpose of medical care stood at 26,001,400. So you can see the utilization is very high. People are really patronizing NHI. It's not collapsing. It's growing in strength and strength. So politicians, say the truth. Thank you very much. We can safely say that the NHI is safe and in the hands of the competent people. The authority has paid most service providers in the region up to January 2024. Those who are in the system for long knows that this is one of the best times of the scheme.
He announced that about 341,016 children between 6 and 14 years would be registered and issued Ghana cards under the NHIA National Identification Authority partnership.
As part of the government's plan to register children under 18 years for the Ghana card, the NHIA is collaborating with the NIA to spearhead the registration. Staff of the NHIA in the region have been trained, and very soon, both NHIA and NIA staff will start the registration.
The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, asserted that the NHIS is one of the best social interventions introduced in Ghana.
Nobody should say that health insurance is not working. Sometimes I hear things on radio. Even health insurance is not working, even paracetamol they can give you. But when they are sick, they go. They go with their cars. So the fact is that national health insurance is one of the best things that has happened to this country. And we thank President Kufuor for initiating the health insurance scheme.
The Ketu North Municipal Directorate of the NHIE was adjudged the best performing district in the country for increasing enrollment and enhancing the service of the scheme. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Ho.
We're taking a quick breather. We'll be back with business to stay tuned in.
Welcome back. It's time for business here on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Taki, and now to our first business story. Leading innovations brand HP has launched a new printer series with improved technological security and sustainability features to create the needed convenience for small and medium-scale businesses. Speaking to Joy Business at the unveiling of the new machines, country manager for HP Central Africa, Emmanuel Asika, explained that the new HP LaserJet 3000 and 4000 series is the game changer for the SME sector.
New HP LaserJet 3000 and 4000 series are sleek printers which offer improved printing solutions for small and medium businesses. The new series comes in smaller sizes compared to its predecessors. Some of the new attributes include artificial intelligence, enhanced quality of print, and a standby mode which makes it an eco-friendly hardware. With the HP Wolf Essentials and Pro Security features, users are guaranteed a line of protection from cyber attacks. Emmanuel Asika, the country manager for HP Central Africa, spoke to Joy Business at the unveiling of the new printers in Accra.
We wanted to take time out to say, look, there's this special printer that can fit a specific niche of people, all right, for the medium scale, small and medium scale businesses. So that's why we launched this, to say that, look, I mean, you know, one of the things that we realize in times like this is that you need a product that speaks to you as an individual. And that may not necessarily be the printer that every person uses. So there's a small niche of people who this printer will speak to directly. You know, the guys who have the small businesses, the one where cost is a consideration, the one who still needs to, do urgent and critical business where security is also important.
Sophie Oluwadamilola Anjorin is the print hardware category manager. She shares the unique insights which distinguishes HP from its competitors.
What's fantastic about these printers is they are significantly better than their predecessors in terms of design, that is the upfront face features. It's smaller, more compact, it fits on a desk much nicer, and of course when it comes to IT solutions, we have upgraded the game. So we've come with the HP Wolf Essential Security. We've also come with the HP Wolf Pro Security that has been put in these printers or embedded. We also have the fascinating TerraJet toner cartridges that actually give you much more vivid color reproduction on a laser printer. So with the TerraJet, it is significant energy savings because it's using less heat, and also it is significantly better cost per page.
Head of Print and Supplies, Francis Angbo, details the technical capabilities of the new series.
This is the first printer we're sharing and producing and launching that has Wolf security. So every decision you make to buy any IT equipment is a security risk. And because it's a security risk, it is important that we know that these devices could not be things that people will breach easily. So this new device offers a lot of security features. You can see the quality of print. You can see the new technology that we have embedded in these new devices.
That'll be all for business here on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Taki. We have more news for you after this break. Stay tuned.
Well, thank you so much for making time to join us for the past 60 minutes. My name is Faustina. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. Top stories there. Tescon member injured after alleged assault by NDC supporters at Mahama lecture. We'll give you more of that story in subsequent bulletin. Have a pleasant day as you enjoy the rest of our programs.